lot of information and products being thrown at you all the time in curly hair content, and I know how overwhelming that can be. So when I saw the trend going around called de-influencing, I knew I had to make a curly hair edition. So these are going to be things that you don't necessarily need to buy or things that you need to do in order to wear your naturally curly hair. If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Gina, and here I make curly hair content that helps you learn how to take care of your curls in really simple, easy to follow, step-by-step tutorials. I like helping you problem solve, talking about the science of hair and everything else in between. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. So let's go ahead and get started. So just a little disclaimer, a lot of these things or products I use all of the time, and that's totally okay. I just wanted to share things that you might not necessarily need and that are not essentials, I guess, or things you might see all the time that you think you're supposed to be doing, but they might not work for everybody, and that's okay. But you'll definitely see me mention a lot of things that you've probably seen me do all the time, or products that you see me use all the time. These are things that you can add in as you get more comfortable learning to take care of your curls, but they're not necessarily needed right off the bat when you're just learning about your hair. Also, there is no right or wrong way to do your curls. What works for one person might not work for you, so you have to be able to understand that and differentiate it when you are watching different curly hair content. So hopefully this helps. So the first category of topics I wanted to talk about is around products. So the first one being that products are not going to look the same on everyone. It's really all about the technique and your curl type. So as an example, I recently styled my sister's curly hair, who has a similar curl pattern than me, but slightly different. I used the same products on her that I use and the same techniques even, very similar techniques, but her hair results obviously look a lot different than mine, but still similar. Her curl pattern starts a little bit further down at the hair shaft. Her roots are a little bit straighter than mine, whereas mine is a little bit tighter right at the root. There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally normal, but as you can see, her results look a lot different. I used the same products on her that I did on my hair in this photo. And you can also see that her hair looks a lot different when she does different techniques on her hair. So here's what her hair looks like when she does her quicker version of her routine, which is just simply raking in her products and scrunching without really doing any styling techniques. You can see that her hair looks so much different compared to when I styled it with a more detailed approach, doing some brush styling and some sectioning. So it's not really about the products, it's really about the technique, and then also your hair type and your curl type is gonna make it look completely different. A lot of times people will ask me, even just out in my real life, oh, what products do you use? And they're asking me that because they want to try and achieve the same look, but you might not get the same look with your hair if you use the same products. It really comes down to the technique. Now, products definitely help, don't get me wrong. I've said that before, that it definitely matters when it comes to how much hold that you're using or how much moisture that your hair has. Products do make a difference, but I'm more so saying that you can use the exact same products and get a totally different result if you apply them differently or if you have a different hair type. And the next one related to products is that products overall are not going to fix your damaged hair. Products cannot make damaged hair just become healthier. Like, you have to grow out that damage when you were transitioning. It took me like 3 years to get my damage completely cut off because I did it in gradual trims, and my hair was so hard to manage when it was damaged that I wish I had cut off more sooner. I think that's why a lot of people do like a big chop so that way they can just start fresh, but I wasn't willing to like cut off all of my hair. But no matter which products that I tried, my hair wasn't going to look the same as somebody who had very healthy hair. So it's really just about managing your expectations, I guess. When you do still have damage and when you're in that transitioning phase, you're gonna have to find products that are going to help improve the health of your hair and help repair damage and stuff, but you just have to know that it's still going to be slightly hard to retain moisture in your hair, so you're probably gonna need stronger hold. There's lots of different things that just vary so much, and your results might turn out different every time because your hair isn't as healthy as it is naturally, so you need to grow out that damage. So I hope that makes sense. It's just that managing your expectations when it comes to having damaged hair still, that it's going to be a lot more finicky and not as predictable. And the next one is that you don't need the latest product launches. I love sharing different products with you and reviewing different stuff, but by no means do you need to run out and buy every single thing that I recommend. I've been trying to include more now of just how products compare to each other when I feature something different and how it compares to something I might have previously talked about and who I think it's best for, because I know it can be very confusing. I totally understand that. And you don't need to go out and buy the latest and greatest products, especially if you already have something that works for you. You can totally just use the same products when you wash your hair every time. I personally just love it as a hobby, testing out different stuff. It's just like a science experiment every time I go to do my hair, but you definitely don't need to have as many products as somebody that makes curly hair content like me. So don't feel bad about it if you don't get the latest and greatest products. If you have products that work for you, keep using those. However, I will say if you use the exact same products every single time you wash your hair forever, you might find that your hair will start to react differently to them eventually. This actually happened to my sister as an example. She was using the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk products because I had recommended them to her. They're great for beginners, but she started to get buildup in her hair. So recently her hair wasn't turning out as good. It was much more weighed down and stringy and she wasn't getting great results. So it's time to change up the products, start clarifying more. So you do still have to be incorporating clarifying and deep conditioning, but you can use the same stylers, just make sure that they're not starting to cause a negative reaction like buildup over time. And the next one is that you don't need to layer on a ton of products. I'm much more of a simple person when it comes to my styling routine. It might not seem like it because I tend to make things complicated because I'm very detail oriented, if you can't tell, but you don't need to layer 10 different styling products. Like you might see some people do a leave-in, a curl cream, a foam, a mousse, a gel, and an oil. Like all of those do have their purpose, and that's great if you get good results with layering them. But for me and my hair type, I can just use a curl cream and a gel, and that's all I need. Those are the essentials in my opinion. Some people even just use a gel. I mean, I even follow people that just use a gel and they don't even need a curl cream because their hair is not as dry or it's not damaged and they can get away with just gel. That's great. So less is more for certain hair types. Other hair types might need more products, and there's things you can add in here or there for added benefits. Like for example, adding in the Curlsmith volume lotion. That's a great product to actually create some volume, and I do see a difference when I use that, so you might see me work that in, but you don't need it. It's not essential. It just is a little added bonus. So especially when you're first getting started, a curl cream and a gel is a great place to start, and you can keep it simple. So now let's talk more about the actual products that I don't think are essentials and you don't have to get started on your curly journey. The first one is co-washes. Co-washes are always recommended in the traditional curly girl method, but I feel like we're kind of getting away from them now, or sort of evolving away from them now in the curly community, because everyone's starting to understand the buildup that they can cause. So they have their purpose when it comes to, like, you just need a quick midweek wash. Maybe you're a swimmer or something and you have to wash your hair, but it's not dirty, but you have to restyle it. In that case, it works just to kind of restyle your hair. You get a very gentle cleanse, but I would not rely on co-washes as your main cleanser. You need to use them in rotation with a good lathering shampoo that does a better job at actually cleansing the scalp. You don't want buildup to accumulate on your scalp because that can lead to clogged hair follicles, which leads to hair loss over time. So you want to maintain a healthy scalp, and I think that incorporating co-washes where they're most necessary is better than just using them all at once, but to each their own. Some people love co-washes. I just think they have a better place. Just incorporate it in your routine. But to keep things simple, you might as well just use a more cleansing shampoo every time you wash your hair. And for me, that's like twice a week, so that's what I end up doing. So I don't find myself really using them, so I don't think they're as essential as using just a regular shampoo. And the next one is leave-in conditioners. You might see me use a leave-in sometimes in place of a curl cream, but I don't always use both of them in a routine. So like I mentioned, I like to keep it simple, which is a curl cream and a gel, and I'll work in like a volumizer here and there. But to me, a leave-in conditioner just provides moisture, whereas a curl cream provides moisture and styling properties. It has styling agents in it to help define the curls or help shrink them up or clump them together, whereas a leave-in is just providing moisture. So I might as well just use a curl cream because I'm still getting moisture, and then I can follow up with a gel, and I don't need to use all three products. So that's just my opinion. I don't think you have to have one, unless if your hair just really benefits from using both, then by all means keep using both. The next one is finishing oils. I didn't really use finishing oils for the longest time. I don't think they are an essential step to seal in your style. I go without them a lot of times. I did use one today though, and that's only because the gel that I used in my hair tends to dry my hair out by next day hair. It was the Jessie Curl Spiralicious Gel. I love it for being strong hold, but I can get some dryness by day 2 or day 3, 4. And so using an oil does help to lock in some moisture. So it does have a purpose. It's just not an essential step, I don't think, for everyone. Plus it just softens up the gel cast sometimes too much to where then I feel like I don't get as much hold on refresh days because that oil is in the way of me like being able to add in more gel, if that makes sense. Like I don't want to layer on more gel on top of oil that's in my hair from wash day. So for me, it's just hit or miss when I use them. I do use them only for specific reasons. So I hope that makes sense. And then the next one is a spray bottle or a steamer. You can totally just use your hands. I do this a lot of times. I just wet my hands in the sink and I refresh that way. It's so much easier. However, I will say a spray bottle is very nice to just kind of mist your hair. So that way it doesn't get soaked, but then you can still refresh very lightly. You're not drenching your hair. So it has its benefits. I do think they're very nice to have. But if you're limited on budget and you're just getting started, just wet your hands under the sink. Oh, and then when it comes to a steamer, steaming your hair doesn't always work for everybody. It only works for certain hair types. Like I said, you can just wet your hands when you are refreshing. You don't have to have a separate steamer to refresh your curls. Next are hair towels. I love my hair towels, but yes, you can just use a regular cotton t-shirt. I did this for years. A lot of my family members do this with their curls because I've given them that tip. Using a old cotton t-shirt is way better than using a regular bath towel, and it's not going to cause frizz. However, I do like hair towels because they're much bigger and you get more just of an absorbent towel to actually use for purposes like plopping or micro plopping, that sort of thing. It's just easier to tie up, but a t-shirt works perfectly fine. The next one some people might not like, but that is the Dyson hair dryer and diffuser. So I've done a whole video comparing diffusers so you can see the full breakdown, but I think it's like $500 and so many people use it. And I don't want people to feel like they need to save up to buy that hair dryer in order to try out diffusing their curls. You do not need that one by any means. In fact, I think it gets way too hot for curly hair. I just do. I mean, if you have, very healthy hair and you only hover diffuse, I'm sure it's fine. But if you're doing like scrunch diffusing techniques like I like to do, it's gonna cause heat damage. So I think it just gets way too hot for curls and it's way too expensive. There is a $35 hair dryer on Amazon that I used for years. It's by Conair. I can link it for you if you're interested, but that one works perfectly fine. It's great for beginners. I use the Curlsmith one now only because it gets my hair dry a lot faster than that one because it's so large. I can link you to that one as well, but it's even much cheaper than the Dyson. And the last one is protein or bond building treatments if you have healthy hair. Now these are not necessary for everybody to use all the time if your hair is very healthy. If you have medium porosity hair and you don't really diffuse and you don't really brush style, you don't need to be doing protein treatments and bond building treatments on a regular basis. You could just do these every once in a while if you find your curls are starting to really look limp or maybe they got over moisturized. But for the most part, healthy hair, you don't need to be doing these all the time. You might even get a negative reaction from incorporating these because your hair doesn't need that protein or doesn't need that bond repair treatment on it if it's already healthy. So not everyone needs them, but I still do brush styling and I heat style, so I still benefit from these even though I don't have super damaged hair. I just use them like once or twice a month. So the next section is going to be about methods and techniques. So not specific to products, but more so techniques you see people doing all the time that might not work for everyone. The first one being the whole curly girl method. I've actually done a whole video talking about why I don't think it's right for everyone or the problems with it and just sort of talking about some of my thoughts about it. As I mentioned, I feel like we have evolved a lot from the traditional curly girl method. It definitely needs some updating, I guess you would say, because we've learned a lot since then. It was developed years ago. But the traditional curly girl method, I just think is not for everybody. Some people get way over moisturized with it. They end up with lots of buildup if they're not clarifying. There's just a lot of like restrictions and restraints that I don't think are completely necessary for everybody, but I do see its purpose in like really, repairing your damaged hair and recovering your hair. I see its purposes there, but with some modifications. So I can link you to that video if you want to see that, where I sort of dissect each rule and who I think that it's good for and who should skip the rule. The next one is soaking wet hair when you are styling, or techniques like the bowl method. This is definitely not for everybody. I find that this works better for wavy hair types. They seem to be the ones that really get benefits out of soaking wet styling. But for my hair type, it just doesn't work. So like I mentioned, there's not a right or wrong way to do your hair. If you get great results by wet styling, then definitely keep doing it. But if you are struggling with your hair being very weighed down, if you're not getting a gel cast, if your hair feels over moisturized like mushy, or if it's still wet or damp by the end of the day, you should probably try out damp styling. And when I damp style, people think that I mean like my hair is pretty much dry to where it's frizzy and stringy. That's not the case. I still incorporate water with my Mr. spray bottle or with my hands. It's just a fine line of incorporating water but not too much water. And if you want me to do a video on that, let me know. One of you suggested that, I think, on Instagram, so maybe I'll make a reel or a short about it. But I can show you how much water I actually use when I say that I damp style, because it's something that you can't really see. You have to feel and just kind of get the hang of. The next one is leaving conditioner in your hair. I don't think that that's necessary for everybody, or maybe everyone to do. That can cause over moisturized hair, and it's just not necessary. So I don't know if that was part of the original Curly Girl method. It might be, where you leave a little bit of your conditioner in your hair. But our curl creams moisturize our hair, like I mentioned, or you can use a leave-in that's actually formulated to be left in your hair. Certain products have different like pH levels, and so those are meant to be in your hair different amounts of time depending on how they're formulated. A conditioner is meant to be rinsed out. If the bottle says to rinse, then you'll want to rinse. If the bottle says that you can leave some in, then leave some in. I've definitely used some conditioners that say that, but it will usually say on the front even that it's like a conditioner and a leave-in. Like some of them are made to be multi-purpose, but for the most part, most of them, they're meant to be rinsed out. You don't want to over condition your hair. There's no reason to be leaving in your conditioner, then using a leave-in, then using a curl cream. That is just way too much moisture, and your curls might be very elongated and just feel like mushy and damp throughout the day. And the next one is just only washing your hair once a week. Not everybody can stretch their hair to once a week in between washes. I mean, that's great if you can go a whole week without washing your hair, because then that's less time you have to spend on your curls, but it might not actually be best for everybody to stretch their hair. I've actually found my hair is happier when I wash twice a week. So I've been doing like a Tuesday or a Wednesday wash, and then I do a like more intense wash on the weekend, so either Saturday or Sunday. And that cadence has worked really well for my hair, because I find that my hair gets very dried out by day 4 or day 5, and it's just not worth doing a refresh and causing breakage trying to get through all those tangles on a refresh. It's better to just wash my hair. So don't feel bad if you cannot go days and days in between your wash day. Everyone has a different moisture cycle, and everyone has a different level of oil on their scalp. Like some people never get oily after 7 days, and some people, especially more wavy hair types, get oily after like 2 days or just after 1 day. So you need to keep your scalp clear and healthy, so that's more important. And you just don't want to be drying out your hair by washing it daily. I think there's a good balance to be had. Like every other day, I would say it's probably the most that you should probably be doing versus every day. And the last one in the method section here is plopping. If you are somebody that gets very weighed down roots or flat roots or a lot of buildup on your scalp, you probably don't need to be doing plopping. And I know that this is talked about a lot as just like a regular method that everybody does before they diffuse, or maybe they do this before they air dry. But for me, I find that it just kind of smushes my hair against my head. And when my hair is full of product and water, I don't want to smush that onto my scalp. Like then it's just putting all of that product on my scalp that's not meant to be on my scalp, which then just leads to more product buildup on the scalp, your roots becoming weighed down and probably even over moisturized as well, because you're kind of trapping that in. And do not sleep with your hair wet. I have to mention that because I think there are some people that are still sleeping in a plop. It can be really bad for your hair. I mean, I'm sure it's fine if you do it every once in a while, but I wouldn't do this every time you wash your hair, because that is just a recipe for scalp fungus. You can get different conditions like dandruff and stuff and bacteria on your scalp that's just being trapped on there from the dampness with plopping overnight. So your scalp needs air. So if you're gonna wash before bed, let it air dry, diffuse it, dry, and then go to sleep. But yeah, plopping can be great, but it's not for everyone. You might wanna try micro plopping, which is just where you're scrunching your hair with your hair towel before you go and diffuse or before you air dry. And then it's not pressing it onto your scalp, but you can actually create more volume at the scalp with this method. So the next topic I wanted to cover is having unrealistic expectations or unrealistic hair goals compared to yours. So if you're following lots of people who have super thick, dense hair and you're expecting your hair to look like that, and you're somebody that has low density hair, then you're not necessarily going to get the same results. Now, I follow tons of different people. I love learning about different hair types. That's why I follow all different curl types, and you totally still can too. I definitely recommend having a variety of people that you follow, but just keep in mind that your results are probably going to look different if you tried the exact same routine as somebody. like I mentioned before, there are so many different factors that go into the outcome of your hair, and your hair type can really play a big difference. Now, this mainly comes into play if you are going to use somebody's photo when you're going in to get a haircut. So it wouldn't make sense for me, for example, to take in a photo of, let's say, Chloe. I love Chloe from Frizz and Frill. She has gorgeous high density curls. She's got thick, coarse curly hair. It wouldn't make sense for me to take a photo of her curly haircut into my hairdresser and say that I want to look like that, because I don't have enough hair to create that curl shape. So it more so comes into play when it comes to haircuts, but also in your results from following certain routines, techniques, and products as well, because you'll get a completely different look on your hair compared to them, because you might have a different density, which is really going to affect, like I said, the shape of your hair and also how much volume that you have. And different porosities can really affect the longevity of your curls. So like I mentioned, if your hair is damaged, then it's going to dry out a lot quicker compared to somebody that has healthy hair that can hold on to moisture. Also, the amount of frizz that you get or the amount of hold that you need is going to vary based on your porosity. A higher porosity or damaged hair needs more hold if you want to contain frizz, compared to somebody with more of a healthy hair porosity. They might not need as much hold, and that might be why some people consider certain products to be a strong hold, but then you use them and you get no hold. That happens to me all the time. I'm like, what were they talking about when they said that this is strong hold? Because I got no cast at all, and that's because we have different hair types, or maybe their hair's healthier than mine and mine just didn't get a cast from it. That happens to me all the time, so just keep that in mind. Also, your hair's texture, so if you have fine, medium, or coarse, that's going to affect how weighed down your hair might get, or how much moisture that you might need, or how little moisture you might need. And then last but not least, your hair pattern is going to affect the look of your curls. Certain techniques, like I mentioned, styling upside down with soaking wet hair works better for wavy hair types usually, compared to somebody with like lower density hair like mine. I get more volume and better results when I style upright with less water. So just keep those things in mind. By all means, I'm not saying to not listen to anything people say from a different hair type. That's not good at all either, because you want to be, taking in different stuff, but you have to just be able to understand your exact hair type to know what to pick and choose from when it comes to what you're going to try out or what products that you're going to get. And I know it's super confusing, like I said. Hopefully through some of my content, I can help you learn more about your curls. I'm definitely more committed to sharing more of that this year, of helping you figure out your curls, because once you understand your curls, you can know what's going to work for you. Like sometimes I'll see a routine, I'm like, yeah, that, like the bowl method, for example, I'll see that and I'll just think that would be awful for my hair type, because it would just be rinsing away all the product in my high porosity hair. So you have to be able to tell, I guess, what's going to work for you to know even what you should try out. So these are some things that I am committed to doing better in my content. I don't want to like influence you guys in the wrong way, I guess, and I'm always trying to be as authentic as possible in my content. But some things I'm trying to do more of. One being, I'm trying to explain more of the purpose behind what I'm doing, so that way you know if it's worth you trying or not. So you might have noticed in a recent video of mine, it was sort of a step-by-step tutorial. I included the purpose of that step and why I was doing it, and then the product that you could use. So you don't have to use the product that I use. You could just use any oil for pre-shampoo or pre-poo oils, for example. You don't have to use the oil that I'm using. So I've been trying to explain that a little bit better, and hopefully that is helping you decide what is actually worth you trying out. I'm also trying to compare products more, like I mentioned, just for more context. I know I try out a lot of different things, and it can be very confusing because you might have just seen me talk about one product and then I'm talking about another gel. So I'm trying to explain more of who that would be good for, because I'm just sharing different options. I'm not saying you need 5 different gels in your arsenal. Like, I want to share who I think this would be good for. Like, this one doesn't have glycerin, so you should try this one if you're really struggling with products giving you frizz that contain glycerin, if that makes sense. Another thing I'm trying to do more of is to share my next day hair results, or my hair by the end of the day, when I'm trying out a new product. Because for me, that's really what it comes down to when I'm testing out at least a new gel, is how my hair looks on next day hair, because I don't want to have to do a ton of refreshing. And so I need to do a better job of just sharing that next day result with you, so you can get the full picture of how it's going to look. Because everyone's hair looks better usually right after wash day compared to, when they've slept in it and worked out in it several days later. I also want to share my hair more in its just natural position and not as fluffed. Like I do, fluff it a little bit. Everybody does, before you take a picture, before you get on camera, but it falls throughout the day, and that's normal. So I need to do a better job, at least on Instagram stories. I try and share like my real everyday life results and how my hair looks. You know, it's definitely not styled every single day, so you can follow me over there if you want to see just more of the day-to-day with my hair. So let me know down below if you want me to react to anyone's particular routine, or maybe even my old styling routines. If you have a particular curly hair content creator, or maybe an old video of mine that you would like for me to react to and share what I would do differently or my thoughts on it as I watch it, definitely let me know that in the comments down below, because I'd like to do one of those videos for you very soon. And if you haven't yet already seen the video I did all about the mistakes that I made when starting my curly hair journey, I definitely recommend checking that out. I will have it linked right here on the screen. In that video, I just go through everything that I did before when I was first starting out that I wish I didn't, or things that I know now after experimenting and lots of trial and error with my hair. So I think it would be very helpful for you, especially if you're a beginner, so you don't make the same mistakes as I did. So I will talk to you in that video. Bye everyone.